Hello, good afternoon everybody. My name is Richard Hughes and welcome to this afternoon's webinar, which is entitled Infor SunSystems, an Overview. As I said, my name is Richard Hughes. I'm Director of Technology and Services here at Eclipse Computing, and this webinar was organised by Emma Mitchell. Quick look at the agenda for this afternoon. What we'll do first, just a little bit of background about who we are at Eclipse for those of you who don't know us, and then we'll move on. And as I said, this is an overview session, so it is really a high-level presentation of SunSystems, and in particular we're just going to be taking a look at the very latest release of SunSystems, which is version 6.2. So we'll just run through some of the key features of this release, and then we will move into a solution demo where we'll just take a look at some of the functionality live within the system, and then there'll be a short session at the end where you can ask any questions, and we'll deal with those in the Q&A at the end, which Emma will manage. Okay, so as I said, just a little bit about who we are for those of you who are not familiar with us. So we are Eclipse Computing. We've been around for about 27, 28 years now. We originally started in 1987 and we set up the company in Tokyo. We have offices currently within the UK, small branch office in the Netherlands, and we have an office in the US in New Jersey as well. So our focus historically, and indeed very much today, has been around implementing and supporting financial systems. So obviously within that, the SunSystems solution from Infor is a core part of our business. That's how we started the company. We were a SunSystems provider. We were actually one of the we actually helped design the original corporate allocations module for SunSystems, and we then sold that back to Infor, and we also worked on the original Japanese localization of SunSystems as well. So we've been, as I say, focused on the financial area, financial function within companies, and we've been working with SunSystems for a long time. Over time, we've also grown the business to work with some other key business partners and key solutions from other providers, which we'll talk about in a second. But really, again, the focus is very much helping organizations streamline processes and improve efficiencies in and around the finance area. So we have some other strategic solutions that we implement in addition to the finance system from Infor. Those would be things like purchase to pay, personal expense management, business intelligence, and some other key solutions. But as I said, the focus has always very much been around helping the finance function within companies. We are very much committed to building long-term relationships with our clients, and in fact our very first two customers that we signed up way back when in 1987 are still customers with us today. So that's something we're very proud of, and I think that sort of speaks to our ambition to we're in this for the long run, and we really endeavour to build long-lasting relationships with our clients. Everything, as I said, within our solution portfolio needs to have certain characteristics. The things that we've found work best over the years are flexible solutions that can be deployed in a number of different ways, whether that's via the web, across multiple locations, across multiple companies, multiple currencies, multiple languages, but also things that allow customers to really get the most information out of those systems. So things that have extensive analysis capabilities. Obviously, SunSystems falls into this category very nicely, but also all of the solutions we deal with, we've chosen some of these best-of-breed solutions because we want them to be solutions that complement each other, but we want them to be things that can really integrate easily between each other. We don't want to make it difficult if somebody's got a P2P, we have that P2P solution tool that are in our solution portfolio are really designed to work together really easily, to integrate tightly, and it really makes implementing them a lot easier. Okay, so just a little bit about what we do with the solution portfolio before we move on to talk about SunSystems itself. So this next slide here really illustrates all of the things that are in what we call our solution portfolio. So the solution portfolio, just waiting for the slide to update here, is it's what we call our integrated solution map. Okay, here we go. So in terms of what we're going to be focusing on today, we'll be looking at things that are in this area up here. So the SunSystems financial modules, and these are things that we'll be talking about when we talk about SunSystems 6. But as you can see here from this slide, there are a number of different products and solutions that we work with. But as I said before, all of these things are designed to fit together, to integrate easily. So obviously on the Infor side, we have our core financial solution, which is SunSystems. Within that, there are a number of different modules that cover traditional GL, accounts payable, accounts receivable, fixed assets, corporate allocations, the cash desk modules for managing things like electronic banking, electronic transmission of remittances to suppliers, electronic bank reconciliation, all of those kinds of things. We have the reporting and analysis tools from a product called Vision, which again integrates very tightly with SunSystems. And then we have other things within the Infor stable. Some of these we'll just maybe mention in passing today, but we'll be doing other webinars on these in the near future. So other things we work with, we have a purchase to pay solution based around a product suite called Proactis, and that really covers everything from spend control, purchase requisitions and ordering, invoice receiving and matching, all the way through to things like inventory management, and on the procurement side, full-blown sourcing, tendering, RFX, contract management, supplier portal, supplier collaboration, all of those kinds of things. We have an expense management solution that we work with, time and expense management, and this is something we actually use internally as well, a system called Systems at Work. And then we have a document management solution from a company called V1, and again, this is very much geared towards automating document management within the finance function, so things like scanning invoices, performing OCR, optical character recognition on invoices, so that we can store, get rid of the paper in the office, digitize the AP function, store documents digitally, and then integrate the transactions into, for example, SunSystems and the finance system. And then finally, we have a solution called Sharperlight, and Sharperlight is really our go-to solution for reporting and business intelligence. And Sharperlight is something that can sit across any of these other solutions that are in the Eclipse portfolio. So Sharperlight is really a business intelligence framework that can report on all of these different products, either individually or in combination with each other. So it makes it really powerful because we can actually extract information from all of these products or multiple products at the same time. So we could take information from Proactis, combine that with information from SunSystems. So Sharperlight is really our go-to solution for business intelligence and reporting. Okay, so let's just move on and talk about SunSystems. So as I said, the focus of the things we wanted to talk about today are SunSystems 6, which is the latest release, and specifically SunSystems 6.2, which is the latest version of the version 6 platform. Again, SunSystems is, as a finance system, it's something that's been around for a very long time. It's versions 3, 4. Later in the early 2000s, the version 5 platform, and version 6 is really the sort of the evolution of the SunSystems solution. And it's, as we'll see, it's something that hopefully combines the traditional strengths of SunSystems over the years, the strong analytical capabilities we talked about, multi-currency, multi-company, but then really moves that on to the next level and sort of brings it right up to date for today's web-based environment, collaboration, all of those kinds of things. So these are some of the things that we'll talk about when we have a look at SunSystems 6 this afternoon. So as I said, just to recap, these are not necessarily characteristics that are specific to SunSystems 6. These are the sort of the fundamental strengths of SunSystems as a solution itself. So these are the things that have always made Sun, in our view at least, and certainly hopefully in the view of our customers, a great solution. So where it's always been strong, it's been very strong in multi-currency. So certainly in the latest versions 5 and version 6, you can have up to 5 different currencies per transaction. So that means you've got your home currency, you've got your transaction currency, in which that can be any currency in which a transaction takes place. But then on top of that, you can have up to 3 additional currency values that are automatically calculated for any transaction within the ledger. So if you've got a second base currency, or if you've got a requirement to report to a head office or to another location in US dollars, if your base currency was GBP, you've got your transaction currency, but you also want to be able to produce all of your standard reports in different currencies, you can definitely do that with the latest versions of SunSystems. So multi-currency, multi-company, and again, this is where we've always found SunSystems to be very strong. A lot of the companies that we work with are based in multiple locations. They're not necessarily very large companies, but they have requirements to deal with multiple legal entities. They want to consolidate information between different locations. They maybe have a lot of very small companies, but SunSystems gives you the flexibility to set up very easily lots and lots of business units, as they call it in SunSystems terminology, and the way we can do that again in the latest version of SunSystems has become a lot easier. So there's a lot of functionality within the latest release of Sun 6 sort of geared around the administration of business units and making life easier for the customers that need to work in a multi-company environment. So the ability to quickly copy information between business units, be able to synchronize different pieces of information. So if you've got a master chart of accounts, or you've got master sets of analysis codes or project codes or cost centers, things that need to be defined once in one top-level business unit, you can easily replicate those out to any subsidiary companies with a minimum of fuss and a minimum of effort. So SunSystems is, of course, what we call a unified ledger system. So unlike some other GL products or some other finance systems where you have a separate ledger for the general ledger, accounts payable ledger, accounts receivable ledger, everything in SunSystems is what we call a unified ledger. But within that unified ledger, we have the power to set up multiple sets of books. So one business unit will always have as a minimum an actuals ledger, but of course we can have the ability to set up to 8 additional different ledgers to record things like budget, transactions, forecasts. We can use those to set up separate ledgers for things like IFRS adjustments. So again, SunSystems in this respect is a very flexible system, and it allows you to set up multiple sets of books for one legal entity, one company. It allows you to do that very quickly. And again, multiple languages. So languages are again an area where SunSystems has traditionally been very strong, and that's certainly carried through to the latest release. So we have a lot of support for all sorts of languages, ranging from the European languages right through to Greek, Arabic, right to left languages, Hindi, Japanese, Chinese. So pretty much any language in the world, there's localization, there's a language pack for SunSystems that can deal with that. So again, SunSystems around the world is a very widely used system. And there's also not just the language capabilities built in, but also the flexibility to deal with things like multiple tax jurisdictions, multiple sets of rules for around chart of accounts in different jurisdictions. So it's a system that fits well internationally. And again, that's something that's been reflected in the latest version. And finally, the flexible analysis structure. So SunSystems is a unified ledger with a single chart of accounts, but it's a system that allows you to define lots of different what we call analysis dimensions in Sun to allow you to analyze the transactions and your chart of accounts to really limit the sort of administration of the chart of accounts itself, but give you a sort of wealth of information that you can subsequently use to report on the information within your ledgers. So we can set up all sorts of different analysis dimensions that can be used to capture cost centers, project codes, also pretty much anything you can think of. And again, in the latest version of SunSystems 6.2, that's something that's been extended even further through one of the latest pieces of functionality, which is called extended analysis. So what extended analysis does is it takes the concept of analysis dimensions even further, but it allows you to build analysis on top of the analysis. So as an example, if you had a analysis dimension set up to record project against a transactions in the ledger, so transactions of a specific type maybe require analysis by project. What the extended analysis allows you to do is to actually analyze the project codes themselves. So for each project you can then specify further subsets of information. So an example would be, for each project in your list of project codes you can define the project manager. So this allows you to create almost an infinite sort of depth of analysis within the ledger and within your chart of accounts. And this is, again, I think something which is quite unique to SunSystems when compared with other financial systems that are out there. And finally, the aim is, certainly with this release, is to try and make the reporting a lot more intuitive, use familiar tools, and we'll see how the sort of standard reporting in SunSystems has changed a little bit. And then on top of that, we have the the vision tools that we talked about earlier, where we can very quickly grab information, drop it into things like Excel. We can have drill down capability for reports that we build in reporting tools to allow us to drill back all the way to the original journals and transactions within the finance system. And SunSystems, because it's been around for such a long time, it's something around which there's a real sort of ecosystem of companion products and modules. There's all sorts of add-ons and additional modules, additional tools, both from Infor themselves and from other third-party providers. So pretty much, if there's something, some piece of functionality that's not covered by the core product, you can be pretty sure that there's a companion product for SunSystems that will cover that. So whether that's document management, whether it's electronic banking, interfacing with your online banking, whether it's importing bank statements, whether it's to do with generating recurring invoices and emailing them out in PDF to your customers. Pretty much, if there's something that can't be handled in the standard products, there's a companion product or an add-on module for SunSystems that will do the job. And finally, we have, as I mentioned, the latest version of SunSystems is something that the integration capabilities have really been improved. So there's a lot of functionality in there to make it easier for other systems to connect to Sun. So if you need to have other systems exchange information with Sun, again, that's something that's become a lot easier with the latest release. So, as I said, just what's new in the latest release, version 6? Well, it takes all of the all the things that we just talked about, all the areas where Sun has traditionally been strong, and it brings those right up to date, compatibility with the latest Microsoft platforms, a new reporting engine for the standard listings for things like trial balance, journal listing, account listing, all of those kinds of things. Web enablement, so we now have the ability to run the entire SunSystems product within a browser, and I'll show you that in a second. So again, that's great for the IT department, for people who maybe only need to access Sun occasionally. It means there's what we call a zero footprint deployment for SunSystems now. So somebody doesn't even need to have Sun installed on their machine. They can just access the entire product straight from a browser. And depending on how you want to extend that, you can even extend that to things like mobile devices, tablets, iPads. You can really open up access to the system if that's something you want to do. And we'll see there's now also an integration with Microsoft SharePoint, and that's something that Infor put together. It's a platform called Mingle, essentially, but what it is, it's a way of integrating Infor products straight into SharePoint, so we can run things like SunSystems embedded inside of a SharePoint environment. And the benefit of that is it takes the things that are good about SharePoint, namely the collaboration, the ability to exchange information quickly, but combines that with information within SunSystems. So you can do things like share a screen or send information about a supplier record to your colleagues, or you can share information about information specific to the finance system in the same way you would share information if you go to a web page and you click on the share button to share that page via Facebook or share that via Twitter or whatever it is. So there's a collaboration platform built into the latest version as well. And as we said, there's new integration and new workflow capabilities that have also been added to the product as well. Okay, so that's enough talking. Let's just have a quick look at the product itself. And what I'll do now is I'll just very quickly switch over to the demo system, and we'll just run through some of those things that I was talking about in the slides there. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll just start off very quickly in the classic SunSystems, if you will. So this is the latest version 6.2, but this is the classic desktop deployment of SunSystems. So this may be the way you're used to seeing SunSystems. So again, for the latest release, what's changed is that there's just a little bit of a cleanup with regards to the user interface. They've just Infor tried to make it a little bit cleaner, just to make the screens a little bit more modern looking and generally a little bit easier to use. So as you can see, again, I'm logged in as an administrator here, so I've got probably absolutely every single option available visible on the screen. But what's important to remember is that the system can be tailored very specifically, so we can you can customize things like the menu layout so that when somebody logs in, they only see the options that are relevant for them. You can obviously limit based on user group or specific users what areas of the system are available, so it's something that's very secure. We can also use things like Windows authentication, so to enable single sign-on, so that when somebody's logged onto their machine, it takes them straight into SunSystems based on their Windows user credentials and not based on a separate set of SunSystems credentials. So again, it minimizes the administration of things like passwords and usernames and passwords and other security credentials. Just in terms of the layout of the screens in the latest version, again, the things that have changed a little bit just to make things easier to find. We have a free text search option now up here in the top right of the screen. So what this allows us to do is it allows us to very quickly search for items within the menus. So if I wanted to find, for example, chart of accounts, I don't need to know what the name of the function is. I can just start to type chart. It'll take me directly to that option. If I know it's something to do with journals, I can just type journal, and again, it'll take me, the number of options on the screen will reduce automatically to reflect what it is that I'm typing in. We can also create favorites, so individual users can have their own favorites. And again, just makes it easy to find functionality within the system, so users set up their own favorites. makes it easy to find. In terms of, as I said, the sort of core screens within the latest release, they have been cleaned up a little bit. So things like the chart of accounts, again, just making that a little bit easier to use. It's been sort of tidied up a little bit. We have the ability to have multiple tabs of information open at the same time, so we can have several functions open at the same time. So again, it's just usability in terms of making things easy to find, making it easier for people who are working in the system to access what they need and to keep several things open at the same time. If we have a look at the ledger entry screen, for example, again, one of the things that's great about SunSystems is you can actually customize a lot of the screen layouts. So if you don't like the standard layout for ledger entry, you can customize that. If it's too complex, you can make it, you can simplify that. You can have different form layouts for different people. So if there are people who need to make more complex journal entries, they can have a more complex journal entry screen, whereas people who are just doing basic some basic adjustment entries, again, you can simplify the way that they see the journal entry function within Sun. So you have a lot of flexibility over how you can customize the layout of the screen. Other things that have changed in this version, we talked about the reporting. So one of the things that has changed is that the sort of core reporting engine in SunSystems has been updated to work with standard Microsoft technology. So if we look at something like the trial balance as a case in point, just have a quick look at that. What's changed with regards to some of these standard listing reports is because they now use Microsoft reporting services instead of the proprietary technology that they were based on before, it just makes the information a little bit easier to look at when we're viewing that on the screen, but it also gives us some additional flexibility in how we manage those reports, how we can share those reports with other people. So if we run the trial balance here, for example, we can see it's now a web-based report. But what we can do with that is we can then very quickly, from within SunSystems, if we need to export that out to a PDF or export that out to an Excel file, we now have the ability to do that. So I can take this, export this out to a PDF, and very quickly put that into a PDF. And I can email that to somebody if I wanted to. There's also the ability now to schedule reports as well. So one of the benefits of moving to reporting services for the reporting engine is that it gives us the ability to schedule some of these standard reports, something that was not possible in previous versions. And one of the other sort of major changes is, of course, the web interface. So we talked about this in the slides. So the benefit of this is, as I mentioned previously, we don't actually need to have any software installed on the client machine. All that suffices is just access to one of the standard browsers, whether that's Internet Explorer, Firefox, Google Chrome. They're all supported. But what we can then do is we can run the entire SunSystems product directly from within a browser. So let me just log into the browser-based version of Sun. Okay, so again, if I just go into one of those functions, again, the layout is actually very, it's almost identical, in fact. So whether you're running this in a browser or whether you're running this as a full-blown desktop client, the idea is that the user experience is very much the same. No matter how you access the system, what you see is exactly the same. So this is the ledger entry screen we were looking at earlier on in the desktop client. As you can see, when it's embedded inside of Internet Explorer, it essentially looks exactly the same. So all of the screens that are available in the desktop version are available in the web version as well. And there was a lot of in the previous version there was some functionality that was not available in the web client. All of that is now actually available in the web client. So even things like the user manager, the management of security, creation of business units, transfer desk, all of those things are now completely available in the web client, which is great, which means that in theory, you don't even have to have Sun installed on your machine to be able to access the system. Other things we talked about, so what I also mentioned is we have the ability to actually integrate SunSystems now with SharePoint. So this is delivered again through a web-based interface because SharePoint is a web-based platform. But what this does is through Infor Mingle, as it's called, it essentially embeds the SunSystems product inside a SharePoint collaboration environment. So if I just log in here as my PK1 user, what this gives me is it gives me a home page, it gives me a feed of information that's relevant for me. So here, very much in the same way as you see on a lot of social networking tools, we have a feed of information, so you can be notified about things that are happening within Sun in real time. So if somebody updates a supplier account that you're watching, you can be notified about that in real time. You can also share information with other users, or you can post information to other individuals within the system or other teams of users. So you can set up teams of users. You can then share information from SunSystems with those users. And if you run SunSystems itself within the SharePoint environment, it also gives you some some added benefits to be able to run things like just start this again. You can run things like the query and analysis, the reporting tools. You can actually run those alongside SunSystems embedded into that SharePoint environment. So what that does is it allows you to have things like context-sensitive BI widgets that are running in real time as you're accessing information in SunSystems. So if I just log in here as an example. So again, I'm running SunSystems here, exactly the same, the web version, but this time I'm running it inside of that Mingle environment. So if I go into, let's just say, supplier setup, let's just have a look at some suppliers. Yeah, let's just have a look at this one. So if we just access one of these suppliers, so we've got the supplier record up on the screen. We can see up here that there are new Q&A visualizations available. So if we just scroll down here, we can see we can then run specific widgets or specific queries related to the information that we're seeing on the screen. So we can get a breakdown of supplier information, for example, or we can look at the unpaid transactions for this particular supplier straight from the supplier screen, but we can view that analysis information alongside the screen. So if I then go and change the supplier record that I'm looking at, the visualization of that data will also update in real time. So by embedding SunSystems inside the SharePoint environment, it takes it even further. So we have the web environment, but if we can then put that inside of SharePoint, that just gives us some other options again to be able to make the system a little bit more dynamic, collaborate with other users, and we can do some really interesting things such as embedding business intelligence directly into the application. And again, in order to access this, people can access this on any device, and they don't really need any specific software installed on their machine, because this is entirely web-based. So you can see here we've got a particular breakdown of suppliers by region, for example. If I were to change the context of the supplier screen over here, this widget would update in real time. Okay, so that is a very, very quick tour around the latest version of SunSystems. As I mentioned at the beginning, what we do is we're running a number of webinars on the latest release, version 6.2, so we will be running some more specific sessions dealing with specific functionality. But what I'd like to do now is just hand you back over to Emma, and if there's any questions, we can have a short Q&A session now. But of course, if there's anything that you want to discuss with either myself or Emma after the webinar, what I'll do is I'll put our contact details up there on the screen, and definitely feel free to drop us an email or give us a call. Okay, Emma, is there any questions?
Thanks, Richard. Please can anyone let me know if you have any questions, either by raising your hand or by typing a question in on your keypad. No questions so far.
Okay. We'll just give that another minute or so. As I said, if you do have any questions, definitely just drop either myself or Emma an email, or feel free to give us a call. No. Any questions? Okay.
Still no questions. No.
Okay. Well. Okay. Great. Okay. Well, what I'll do, as I said, I'll leave the contact details up there for a second. Thank you very much for attending this afternoon. And if you'd like to learn more about anything you've seen this afternoon, or if you want to have more information about any of the other solutions that we talked about, then please feel free to get in touch. But apart from that, thank you very much for taking the time out to view this webinar this afternoon, and we